tonight, turn off every light in your home, every lamp, every screen, every little glowing dot. Then strike one small flame and hold it up. That trembling circle of light is all you get. Everything outside it belongs to the dark tens of thousands of years ago. A person carried a flame just like yours into a hole in the earth, into a darkness that never fades. It closes behind you like water. Nobody sleeps this deep, and nobody hunts down here. This person came for another reason. In one hand, fire. In the other, paint. Deep inside the mountain, they stop at a wall of cold stone. They press one hand flat against it. Someone leans in and blows a cloud of red dust across the skin. The hand pulls away, and a human shape stays on the rock, in a place where no human body can stay. On an island in Indonesia. One of those handprints has survived for at least 67,800 years. It is older than farming, older than writing, older than the wheel. So here is the question. Why would anyone burn precious light, precious fuel, precious hours to leave a picture where almost nobody would ever see it? Remember that hand pulling away from the wall? By the end of this story, you will understand what that hand set in motion and why nothing on earth had ever done it before. Start at the mouth of the cave, late in the afternoon, with a small group of people getting ready to go underground. Look at what they are carrying, because every item tells you something. Torch and lamps that burn animal fat. Stop on that detail for a second. Fat means an animal already died. And some of that hard-won prize, food that could have fed a child, is about to be burned away for nothing but light. They carry red pigment too. And that pigment has a history of its own. Somebody found the right mineral, hauled it back to camp, ground it into powder, and mixed it. Hours of careful work that never produced a single bite of food. And they are spending the most expensive thing they own. Time. Out here in the daylight, there are tools to repair, hides to scrape, children to watch, a camp to defend. Every minute of light inside that cave has been paid for in advance. They go in anyway. For the first stretch, a day follows them. The entrance glows at their backs, a warm doorway of light that shrinks with every step. Then the passage bends, and the doorway is gone. Now pay attention to what happens, because your body has probably never been in darkness like this. This is a different animal from your bedroom at night, where street light leaks through the curtains and a phone charger glows in the corner. This is the deep earth, and the deep earth is absolute. Open your eyes. Close your eyes. The view is identical. In here, the world runs on sound. Water ticking off a ceiling somewhere ahead. Breath bouncing back off stone. The small wet echo of your own footsteps arriving a half-second late. The passage tightens. The ceiling drops until they are walking bent over, then crawling, pushing the torch ahead through gaps in the rock. Then it happens. A draft slides through the mountain, some invisible river of cold air, and the flame lies down flat. For one long breath, the whole world shrinks to a dim orange coal, and 5 people freeze in place, somewhere under a hill, waiting. Think about what they are waiting to find out. If that flame dies, there is no searching for the way out. because you cannot search for an exit. You cannot see. The dark in here does not care how brave you are or how well you know these tunnels. One gust settles everything. The flame stands back up. Somebody exhales. They keep moving. A few steps later, the youngest one plants a foot on wet stone and goes down hard. And the sound cracks through the passage like a whip. He is fine. He is lucky. A broken leg in one of those crawl spaces is a problem with no good answer, because there is no easy way to haul a grown body back through gaps you had to squeeze into. Every step deeper is a step away from food, from water, from open sky, from every single thing that keeps a human being alive. Nothing about survival points in this direction. They keep going anyway. Then, deep inside the mountain, they stop. They walked past plenty of stone to get here. Flat stone, smooth stone, easy stone, just steps from the entrance. And they passed all of it without a glance. They kept moving until they reached this one surface. This particular sweep of rock, chosen for reasons a stranger could never guess by looking. Hold that thought, because it matters later. The torch comes close. The painting begins, and here is what should bother you about everything you just watched. The mystery was never how they painted. Human hands are clever, and people always find a way. Give a person charcoal and fat and red earth, and they will invent a brush, a crayon, a spray. The mystery is why the image had to be here at all. Why they hauled it into the one place on earth where a picture is hardest to see. You cannot answer that question standing in the tunnel. You have to look at the walls themselves, at what these people chose to paint, and just as important, at what they refused to paint. Raise the torch and let the light move across the stone. A bison swims up out of the dark, and it stops you cold. The shoulder is a hill of muscle. The legs are caught mid-stride. Whoever made this had watched living bison for years and carried the animal home in their head. The weight of it. The way the front end rocks when it runs. The light slides on. A horse at full gallop. Mane flying. Then, stranger things. Rows of dots marching across the rock in a line. Shapes built from straight strokes and angles that match nothing alive. And hands. Dozens of hands. Scattered across the walls like a crowd pressed against glass. Now notice what is missing. Us. In many of the most famous painted caves, the animals get the royal treatment. The care. The detail. The motion. Human beings barely show up at all. And when they do, they are stick figures. Rough little scratches next to masterpieces. These artists could clearly paint anything they wanted. Anything. They chose almost never to paint themselves. Whatever these walls were for, our own faces rarely belonged on them. So what were they for? Time to put the oldest suspect on trial for about 100 years. The favorite explanation was hunting magic. And you should hear the strong version of it, because it is genuinely seductive. Paint the bison, and in some way that mattered to them. You already hold the bison. The wall becomes a place to rehearse the most dangerous morning of your life while it is still safe. To stand close to the horns. To study the animal at a distance of inches. To face the fear before you have to face the flesh. Some of these paintings may truly have carried a hope like that. It would be a very human thing to hope. But the suspect has problems. In some of the most famous painted caves, people left more than art. They left dinner, bonis, ash, the trash of ordinary meals. And at some sites, the bones tell on the walls because the animals these people mostly ate are different from the animals they painted. The walls celebrate one caste of creatures, while the fire pits fill up with another. If the paintings were bait for tomorrow's hunt, why would you paint the wrong animal? And hunting magic collapses completely in front of the rest of the gallery. The handprints, the rows of dots, the geometric marks. Nobody hunts a row of dots. So the verdict on hunting magic is the honest one. It is probably guilty of something, somewhere, but it is nowhere near the whole story. Which brings us to an island in Indonesia and to the wall that changes the question. In a cave on Sulawesi, there is a painted scene that researchers have dated to at least 51,200 years old. Hold that number up against everything you know. This is tens of thousands of years before the pyramids, before the first city, before the first written word. And it is the oldest known evidence of something remarkable. On that wall, figures that look part human are arranged around a wild pig. They face it. They relate to it. Somebody placed those figures together on purpose. The way you place characters. The stone cannot tell us what the scene meant. And honesty matters here. So nobody can promise you what story it told. But a composed scene is a different kind of object than a portrait of an animal. A lone bison says, "This creature exists." Figures arranged around a pig say, "Something happened. Once." Or in a story told around a fire. Or in a world beyond this one. Something happened. And it mattered enough to fix onto stone. Which flips the whole investigation on its head. Maybe these people were painting something bigger than the animal they saw. Maybe they were painting the story they told about it. Sit with how big that is. Because if the wall is where a story gets kept, then the animal on the wall was never just an animal. It might be a piece of information, a warning, a lesson for children who had not been born yet, a memory that somebody, for some reason, could not afford to lose. And the moment you say those words, could not afford to lose, you are standing at the edge of the real answer. To see it, you have to pull the camera all the way back, further than this cave, further than this century, back until you can see the whole history of life on Earth at once. And the one weakness that no creature had ever escaped for nearly 4 billion years. Life on this planet has carried a weakness. It could never escape. What a creature learns lives inside its body. And when the body dies, the learning goes with it. Watch what that weakness actually costs. Somewhere on a dry plain, the oldest elephant in the herd goes down for the last time. Behind her eyes, she carries 50 years of maps. Every waterhole that survives a drought. Every pass through the hills. Every shortcut her own mother showed her when the world turned to dust. Now, animals can teach each other. And elephants do. The young ones have been walking behind her for years, soaking up whatever she had time to show them. But teaching like that only works while the teacher is alive and standing close enough to follow. Whatever she never got to pass on, whatever lived only behind her eyes, stops existing before her body is cold. The herd gathers around her. They touch her with their trunks. And somewhere in those few hours, Maps that took 50 years to draw simply go dark, and some of the young ones will die buying them back. Drought by drought, mistake by mistake. Nature never fixed this. Every generation, every species, the same toll. Our own ancestors paid it too. And if you saw our story about water, you already know the face of that bill. The old woman, the slowest walker in the group, carried 30 years of springs and poisoned pools behind her eyes. Every lesson priced at a funeral. Her people fought to copy her out, story by story around the fire, name by name across the land. But every copy they made was written into another skull. Another pile of soft tissue with a heartbeat and a deadline. The chain held. Now, go back into the cave, back to the wall, and watch this closely, because this is the moment a hand presses flat against cold stone. Fingers spread. Someone leans in with a mouthful of red pigment and blows. Once. Twice. A small storm of color settling over skin and rock together. The hand pulls away. The image stays. Follow that person out of the cave in your mind. They crawl back through the tight places, past the bend, out into daylight. And the handprint does not come with them. It does not need to. They will go on living, hunting, arguing, growing old. One day, their heart will stop. And the mind that decided to leave that mark will go back into the earth like every mind before it. And the shape of their hand will still be on that wall. A thought had stepped outside a living body. It needed no food, no heartbeat, no living witness to hold it in place. The old rule: learn it and lose it. Learn it and lose it. Forever, had finally met something it could not erase. The second chain just snapped. That handprint in Indonesia has held its place for at least 67,800 years. Every voice from that world has gone quiet. Every language spoken in front of that wall has vanished so completely that no living person knows a single word of it. The hand is still there, but the wall by itself was never the whole invention. A picture nobody understands is just a stain on a rock. A message needs a reader. And this is where the cave floor gives up its quietest secret. In some of these deep caves, the ground remembers what the walls cannot. Soft clay takes a print and keeps it. And in a handful of famous chambers, researchers studying those floors believe some of the footprints pressed into them belong to children. Small feet, far past the reach of daylight. On certain walls, there are finger tracings at the height a child could reach. Wandering lines in the soft surface, right beside the work of skilled adult hands. Stop and picture what that means. Somebody spent the fuel, accepted the risk, and brought a child crawling through absolute darkness, deeper into the earth than sunlight has ever been, to stand in front of a painted wall. Nobody does that by accident. Whatever was on those walls, the people who made them wanted the next generation standing in front of it, and they made the delivery in person. The wall could hold a thought after its maker died. The child could carry that thought back into the sun and walk it 40 more years into the future. One half was storage. The other half was the handover, which leaves one last question. And it has been waiting since the beginning. If these images were treasure meant to be passed down, why hide them in the hardest place on earth to see? If the wall was meant to be read, Why bury the book? One honest note before we go further. Because somebody always asks, this art does not all hide in the deep. Plenty of it sits at cave mouths, under open rock overhangs, in ordinary daylight, and almost everything painted on wood, on hide, on skin, on sand is gone forever. So the caves are simply the pages of the book that happened to survive. The question is about the strangest of those pages. The panels placed far beyond the reach of any daylight. Those were a choice. And the choice starts to make sense the moment you stop treating the darkness as a problem. The darkness may have been the point. Think about what stepping into it does to a person. Out in the sun, the world is full of ordinary business. Food, weather, chores, noise. Then you crawl through a stone throat into a place with no day and no season, where the temperature never changes and time itself loses its grip. People who study these caves suggest that the journey may have worked like a threshold. You did not simply visit the wall. You left one world and entered another. And the crossing itself told you that whatever came next was set apart from ordinary life. The dark also made the wall something that could be given. A painting at the cave mouth belongs to everyone who wanders past. A painting half a mile into the earth belongs only to the people someone chooses to bring. And now, the children on the cave floor snap into focus. Nobody stumbled onto these images. You were led to them, guided through the blackness by somebody who already knew the way. And the guiding may have been half the meaning. The wall was never on display. It was handed over. And then there is the possibility that turns these chambers into something no museum photograph will ever show you. Look closely at the paintings and you find that the artists use the rock itself. A bulge in the stone becomes the swell of a shoulder. A crack becomes a mouth. A curve in the wall becomes the line of a back. So the animal is not sitting on the surface. It is coming out of it. Now take away your steady electric light and put back the only light these chambers ever knew. A torch. Flame moves. Shadows swing and breathe with it. And researchers who have rebuilt that firelight report something eerie. The animals seem to shift. A flank appears to swell. A leg seems to step. Walk past with a torch, and the herd flickers in and out of the dark, almost running. These paintings hold still in museum light. They may never have been meant for stillness. It is one possibility, and only that. But it is hard to shake. A chamber, a fire, a voice telling a story, a crowd of painted animals breathing on the walls, and children watching with their hearts pounding. If that picture is anywhere near the truth, then this was never a gallery. It was the first theater on Earth. So, after the whole investigation, which answer is the right one? Hunting magic, teaching, storytelling, belonging, ritual. Here is the verdict. And it is the most honest one archaeology can give. Probably all of them. In different caves. In different centuries. For different peoples. The mistake was ever expecting 40,000 years of painting. Spread across every continent our species reached to carry one single reason. Ask why your own world covers its walls with images, and you will not get one answer either. But every answer on that list meets at the same point. The lesson, the story, the mark of belonging, the right in the dark. Every single one needs the image to do the one thing no living brain could ever do: hold a thought after the thinker is gone. We may never know exactly why they painted. We can see what the painting made possible. Now come back to your own house and turn the lights back on. Look around at what you were sitting inside this whole time. Photographs on the wall. Faces held in place long after the moment died. A shelf of books, each one full of thoughts from minds that stopped thinking decades or centuries ago. A child's drawing stuck to a refrigerator. A name someone once carved into wet concrete on your street. And this screen right now, a glowing wall in a dark room, is holding a story for you the exact same way. A torch once held a bison for a child. You will never grind red stone into powder to keep your thoughts alive. You will never buy an evening of light with the fat of an animal your family needed for food. And you will never crawl through absolute darkness so that something you know can survive the night. Your ancestors already paid that bill in full. And everything in your world that remembers for you, every page, every picture, every screen, is the change they left behind. Somewhere on an island in Indonesia, a person pressed a hand against a stone and maybe needed some part of themselves to stay behind when they walked away. Then the torches went out. The voices faded. And the world forgot that wall for 67,800 years. The message waited anyway. Tonight, it finally reached its reader. The reader is you.